Well, here it is, martini time again. Isn't that nice? I've been waiting all day for this, and just to be here with you and have a little chat. And it's funny this morning when after my morning talk, there was the grilling of Judge Gorsuch, and it's still going on. And I'm thinking what was very interesting, and I think there's several things. This grilling means it's to me it's kind of like a passage, right? We made it into a rite of passage that the new Supreme Court judge has to go through in order to get a seat on that bench for life. And the idea is that it's exhausting. I mean, you sit there for hours and hours, and if you don't have any character or strength, you're going to break down and say some stupid stuff. So in that way, it's kind of like just the ritual itself is kind of like a gauntlet or a rite of passage or a how much whipping can you stand or how much pain can you bear without losing your temper or losing your cool or revealing something that's hidden that you need to reveal. So it's interesting from that. And I'm also interested in the longer view because back before the 60s, even during the 60s, Supreme Court judges were not really a problem. They were just regular judges. There was no divide here that created this question about which side do you stand on. And so what I'm looking at right now, I like to simplify things. I'm a simple person. My mind goes towards the simple. My mind intuitively goes towards the core of something. What is the simple formula that holds it together? Because what we see every day is fragmented conflict, so that we really don't understand what the core of the dance is. All we see is just this flailing around, and it gets very confusing. So, just to break this down, from my point of view, it seems to be a debate or a dance between two views of life that are really male and female. I can't get much simpler than that. But it's this idea of law that's unique to the West. And the idea of law, which is also our idea of God as a judge who administers the law. Christianity in the West, Protestant Christianity, has kind of like sees God as a judge, and he administers the law, and those guilty go to hell. It's quite simple. And even the churches look like a judge room, a court. You've got the pews where the people sit. You've got the place where the judge comes out, and he looks like a judge, dressed in black, you see. He doesn't look like a Catholic judge, a Catholic priest, Catholic pope, looks like a rich king. They're a king. This is the court, the throne. With Protestant leans more towards God's the judge. You be the judge. So God is the judge, and the judge in our system, you see, is a judge who administers the law. Okay, so there's this idea of law. Then there is also the idea in the West that the law is imposed on man and nature by God. So there's this idea that these laws of God, or laws of nature, or laws of man, which would be the Bible, laws of nature, science, and laws of man would be the Constitution. So these different embodiments of the law, you see, are applied to this nature, to this man, to this society, to keep them in order, because if you don't have this law, they're going to go like crazy, cuckoo. They need law in order. See this idea that you need law and order because man by nature is fallen. This is an assumption in our Western society, not by everybody, but just a general assumption that we fall into about myself or about mankind and gender, that I'm fallen. There's a problem with me. There's a fault here. There's something lacking. I'm a mistake. I have to obey some authority. So it begins with children. You obey the authority of the parent. The parents apply the law. And you grow up and you obey the authority of the church or the politician or your therapist or whatever, But the idea is that the law is externally applied and you have to conform to it. You go to work and you conform to the law. So there's this resistance against conformity in our society, which is the law of, the right of the individual. So there's that element too. Just as a side idea here, Oriental philosophies and societies don't have that idea or assumption of the law being external to life. Their view is more of life as being organic, so it unfolds the law within itself. You see, rather than having the law applied to it and it conforming to the law. So when we get down to the grilling of Judge Gorsuch, not historically, but for the last decades, ever since this grilling started, it seems to be between the idea on the one side, the right, that the judge should be a literalist. In other words, he should interpret the law and apply the law literally as it is written. Don't fuck around with it. And the left is more of a pragmatic view in which the law should be flexible. And this is simply understood if you understand a machine or a life. Or a machine must comply to the laws of that machine. If it doesn't, it breaks down and you go get it fixed. You get it back in alignment with the law. You fix the carburetor, you do something. It's broken down, you see. But life doesn't work that way. Organic life is creating itself, and it creates itself in relationship to the environment. So if the environment changes, life is going to create itself differently. So life doesn't conform to a set of externally imposed laws, you see. So there's a really different, viewpoint here that we really need to understand. And you could break it down to a difference between creationists and evolutionists. So the creationist view is that life and reality is set. It's been written down. Everything is defined. You don't want to mess around with it. So you have to get in alignment with the definitions and categories and social rituals and order of a society. So you have to get in alignment with the given order, which is the law. So you could see this break apart in the 60s. So the social order is primarily, patriot in a society is that if your country has a war, it's your duty to go to war. So when Vietnam came along, and it was a questionable war, and also it was on TV, so you saw people getting blown up. The young men says that's illegal. That's not a righteous war. I don't want to go. I don't want to obey the order. I don't want to fit into. I don't want to obey the law. And that began to put a big crack in the egg. You see, the right of the individual to follow his own drummer, to listen to his own law, to create his own law. So these two forces, obey and align with the law and create your own law, began to come apart and hit each other. And that's where we are today. So the evolutionist side says that life is creating it. Life evolves. Life is creating itself. So the law, the Constitution, has to be flexible enough to fit itself to these new creations. So the Constitution is more like a set of clothes that grows with you. So if you grow a new right, like civil rights was a new right, then the law has to be changed to fit that right, or LGBT. If you have individuals asserting their individuality and the rights they require to assert that individuality, the Constitution has to grow a little bit to fit that, you see. But the creationists would say, no, the Constitution can't grow and you can't mess with it, it's fixed, so these people have to fit to that. See, the Constitution can't fit you, you have to fit it. And both of these have their value, both of these have their view. But they're incompatible views. So what should a judge do, you see? Should he be obedient to principles, no matter what the effect, you see? Should you pass the law and says, I'm sorry, you can't go to a bathroom if you become a woman, you can't go to a woman's bathroom because the law says, written in the sky, you're a male. So now the female has to go to a male bathroom and be ridiculed, you see. So, this idea that these are or the rigid on the other side would say, well, you can do what you want. You know, there is no iron law. You know, do what you want. That's the loose-in liberal side. And the strict right side would be, you can't do what you want. You have to conform and fit to the order. The law keeps society whole and safe. Law keeps everything safe, you see. But it creates conflict with life that changes. So this works fine when society's not changing. Right? Like in the 50s, it didn't change that much. So there wasn't any conflict. But in the 60s, whoa, watch out. And since then, so there's this constant attempt of the law to hold in change, and there's a constant desire of life as change to break out of the law. And we all know this from our personal experiences with our own families. And getting back to that original, what are some of the original formulas here? If you could say it's male versus female or mother versus father. So the principle of the mother principle is that I love all my children, and the best one that describes that is the GE ad of You Can't Lift the Hammer. So the son comes home to show off his new job. I'm a programmer, I'm a head person. And the father says, well, good, here, lift your grandpappy's hammer, you see. And he won't lift it. You can't lift the hammer, can you? And the mother says, oh, you're going to change the world. You'll be all right. You're okay. You're going to change the world. And the father says, well, you can't obey the law, can you? You can't conform. You can't lift your grandpappy's law. You see? So there's this idea, it's kind of like male order, male judgment of the father, who you have to measure up to an ideal and to the law, and the mother's compassion for you, no matter whether you can lift it up or not. You see, this inclusion and exclusion, right? So the exclusion, which would be the father, would be, if you can't measure up, you're going to be excluded. Get out. And the mother would be, I'll include you in the house. You're all included. All my children are included, you see. And they're both valid. I mean, I'm not saying there's not a fault finding here. They're both valid. So what we're looking for in a human judge is one who can choose, holding both of these together, who can be free to have wisdom, which is the law, and compassion, which is love, you see. So we need both wings. If we only have one wing, the law is going to go in a circle, either way. If all we have is permissiveness, we go in a circle. If all we have is the rigid law, obey the law, no matter what principle over love, we go in a circle. One wing can't fly the bird, the eagle. So the eagle needs two wings. So the end result is that in order to fly straight, we have to be able to flap both wings at the same time. Understand the law, but understand change. So that we come up with a creative solution instead of a rigid solution or a permissive solution. What we're looking for is a creative solution, a creative judge. And a creative judge is one who uses both wings at the same time. So that when both wings, they're contradictory wings, opposites, are both contained in one person, that is a creative person, because the opposites together generate the energy for a creative idea that solves the dilemma. You see, the judge is one who is supposed to solve a dilemma that no one else can solve. The Supreme Court basically is like a pimple. You work the black edge, you work it up to the top one where it can pop it out. It has to go through all the lower little pimples. You're squeezing, everybody's squeezing on it till you bring it up to a big head, and that's the Supreme Court. So they're the ones that are supposed to solve the insolvable problems of a society, which is the conflict between law and growth, the individual versus the order, the whole, the individual rights versus the rights of the whole. So this is a constant dance, a constant conflict in ourself as well as in society. So the ideal of the judge is the one who can pop the pimple with justice for both sides, justice for all. And these choices have to be creative. Otherwise, you fall back on one or the other. So you have to be able to, the judge then will create law if it's creative. In other words, he'll come up with a decision that creates a resolution, a way of containing both forces, you see. So that's not the old law, and it's not just letting go of the law. No law. It's a new law that contains the opposites. And so unfortunately, you know, we look at creativity as being against the old order often. We look at something creative as being something new that works, like Apple computers. Our whole society is founded on coming up with creative ideas that solve problems, you see. So we need to put that into the law, into our law itself, you know, and have creative solution, a creative judge, rather than a rubber stamp judge or a permissive judge who says no law. Yeah, everybody can do what they want, you know. Permissive judge, you see. So it's a dance, and we go. I mean, there's no way to get away from it. It's the constant dance of life. Every flower has the same dance, you know, of the individual flower, and yet the constraints of the environment, you know. And so anyway, that's kind of like what been my take on today's the grilling of Judge Gorsuch. Such a grilling, you know, such a whipping, but he seems to be doing okay. Anyway, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the morning at our Zen moment, and we continue to explore the Ariadne's thread out of our labyrinth in the morning. So I'll see you then. Thank you.